First at 9 this Thursday, the 22nd of January 2026. Doctors on strike. Government doctors to launch an island-wide token strike tomorrow. GMOA says government has failed to deliver concrete solutions to doctors' concerns. Taking stock. IMF staff deemed to arrive in Sri Lanka today to assess the extent of the damages caused by Cyclone Detwa. Call for reforms. Parents demand the immediate implementation of the postponed Grade 6 curriculum revision outside Parliament as the House debates the education reforms. The hot seat. Government is forcing the Attorney General to comply or resign. Former Justice Minister warns no discussion within government to impeach the Attorney General, says incumbent Justice Minister Harshana Nanayakara.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana News Channel. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story this evening. The Government Medical Officers Association announced a decision to launch a 48-hour token strike from 8 a.m. tomorrow, citing the government's failure to address doctors' concerns through the budget. Meanwhile, doctors of the National Eye Hospital initiated a strike action this morning, expressing objection to alleged irregularities in staff transfers.
Doctors of the National Eye Hospital of Sri Lanka initiated a strike action at 8 a.m. today in objection to alleged irregular staff transfers. The Government Medical Officers Association condemned the conduct of the hospital's director with regard to transfers.
A crisis has arisen due to the arbitrary transfer of staff. We request the Health Ministry to appoint a qualified director to the National Eye Hospital. There is an accepted transfer procedure approved by the Ministry of Health. Let's follow this procedure. If not, it is the patients who will face injustice.
Addressing the accusations, Director of the National Eye Hospital Dr. Jairuwan Bandara stated that all transfers have been made pursuant to Health Ministry guidelines.
The approved doctors' cadre for the National Eye Hospital is 121. However, we currently have 125 doctors. If I do not release 4 doctors next month, I will not be able to pay their salaries. I transferred 2 doctors in accordance with circulars issued by the Ministry to avert this crisis. I have heard that today's strike was launched based on these transfers. Innocent patients sacrifice multiple days of their lives to visit this hospital for treatment. I request that all doctors fulfill their duties to these innocent patients.
Patients were inconvenienced by the strike action, which was launched with no prior warning. Meanwhile, the strike action initiated by the Government Medical Officers Association across the Eastern Province on the 13th of January, demanding the removal of the medical superintendent of the Akarepattu Base Hospital over allegations of misconduct, was called off today. Against this backdrop, the Government Medical Officers Association announced a decision to launch an island-wide token strike at 8 a.m. tomorrow. The association says the decision comes in response to the government's failure to provide solutions to doctors' professional concerns through the budget.
The previous budget failed to provide concrete solutions to issues of doctors, other medical professionals and the hospital system. However, the Health Minister made some promises in writing in the interest of protecting the free healthcare system. The Ministry is, however, postponing the implementation of these agreements day by day. He is now attempting to make a U-turn. We have given him until 7:59 a.m. tomorrow. However, it is evident that neither the Health Minister nor the government is interested in addressing our concerns. Our executive committee, following extensive discussions, agreed to launch a 48-hour island-wide token strike. Routine medical services will be halted. However, emergency and essential care will continue as usual. The strike will not be effective in children's and maternity hospitals, oncology and nephrology units, military hospitals and the National Institute of Mental Health in Angoda. The government, the Health Minister and the Ministry should bear full responsibility for any and all inconveniences caused to the public.
ඒ සම්පූර්ණ වගකීම මේ ආණ්ඩුව සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යවරයා සහ සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය බාර ගන්න ඕනේ. ඔබේ සම හඳුනාගෙන ඖෂධීය ශාකසාරමේ Forever face wash එකක් භාවිතා කරන්න.
Chief Government Whip Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa claims that the opposition's criticism against the education reforms are costing Sri Lanka students the opportunity of accessing new methods of learning. Meanwhile, the opposition claims that they support education reforms in principle but object to flawed implementation and accuse the government of falsely blaming the opposition for postponements.
None of us is against education reforms. Therefore, accusing the opposition is pointless. Who stopped the white paper in 1980s by bringing students onto the streets? If it had been implemented then, it would be 40 years old by now. Even South Korea introduced reforms after us. Ironically, those who opposed reforms at the time are now in power. On January 16th, after meeting with the trade unions, the president stated that reforms for grade 1 would continue. However, due to issues related to the module content, teachers' training and technical aspects of the grade 6 reforms, their implementation was postponed until 2027. Was it the opposition that postponed these reforms? According to this logic, even the president must be in the opposition. Since you cannot blame him, you are now blaming the opposition. You are now organizing protest. Why don't you direct the protest to the president's secretariat? It was he who postponed the reforms. The president no longer attends NPP events. I noticed that Minister Lanka has now started referring to Lenin again. Not Vladimir Lenin, but Lenin Morasses. As the president is working with the IMF and the American ambassador, grassroots party members are questioning the ideological direction of the party. With no Lenin, Marx or Engels being discussed, Minister Lanka appears to be revisiting Lenin once more. Stop this deception. You may have misled the public, but do not mislead your own party cadre. If you had implemented the grade 6 reforms, you would have had to use the smart classrooms provided to 380 schools by the opposition leader. The government that accused us of politicizing schools has yet to provide even a single television to a smart classroom. Minister Nalinda is calling for the debate on education reforms, but the accused is not in the house. The Prime Minister should be present for such a debate. It appears the government is attempting to proceed while she is out of the country, denying her the opportunity to respond and get rid of her. I would like to ask the JVP members of the government to refer to page 52 of the grade 6 English module. I will not read it loud as it contains explicit content. We are not against reforms, but we strongly object to inclusion of explicit web links in the module. I would also like to ask where priority has been given to artificial intelligence, generative AI, adaptive learning, personalized education systems, augmented reality, virtual reality and extended reality. Are these included in the reforms? Absolutely not. The opposition leader claims that AI and data analytics have not been included in the curriculum. However, ICT has been introduced into the grade 6 syllabus and those subjects include AI and data analytics. It is not possible to include every topic related to these fields in a single module. The opposition has focused only on a web link. We acknowledge that there was a mistake.
Continuously making that complaint again and again. So that is the mistake which has been done by the opposition.
Earlier, the MP stated that the critical thinking, problem solving and collaboration were included in the module. If that is the case, why did the president issue a Facebook post stating that the reforms must be postponed? He postponed them because he recognized the issues. Let me show you where the inclusion of explicit web links began. I have the grade 11 ICT textbook from 2015. On page 74, several links are included, including the body link that has now been labeled as explicit. This textbook was introduced during the Maitripala Sajith Ranil government and is still in use today. There is even a monk who is a trade union leader who has yet to notice this.
This morning, the Deputy Minister confused the links in the grade 11 ICT textbook with the link in the grade 6 English module. They are not the same. The grade 11 ICT book contains a link to the eBuddy site. The grade 6 module contains a different link. Please do not confuse the two.
The Prime Minister attended the World Economic Forum at the request of the Cabinet and the President. Had a no-confidence motion been presented, she would have returned immediately. The government has proposed dates for the motion, but the opposition continues to deny it. On January 21st, 1982, the White Paper on Education Reforms was presented to Parliament. 44 years ago, the most important education reforms were halted by the current government through violence and by mobilizing students students onto the streets. Those who destroyed reforms that were based on English language education, reforms that enabled international integration by using contradicting statements and weapons, are now lecturing us on the value of education reforms.
අද අපිට ඇවිල්ලා කියනවා අධ්‍යාපන ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණවල වටිනාකම් පිළිබඳව.
මේ ආණ්ඩුව යන්නේ තනිකර රුයිතට.
This government is reversing decisions across all sectors. It reversed the decision to enroll local students into the KDU medical faculty, the appointment of the Auditor General, corporal punishment provisions under the Penal Code, reservoir boundary demarcation, electricity tariff increases, the proposed road through Wilpattu National Park, explanations regarding the Supreme Satellites loss, the colour scheme of suicide ambulances, the decision to end school at 2:30 p.m. and even attempts related to Baralanda. Everything has been reversed.
ඔක්කොම රිවර්ස්නේ.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාට අනුව නම්
According to the opposition leader, the government is attempting to make education inappropriate. If he were present in the house, I would ask him what inappropriate thoughts he derives from these textbooks. Does he find the cover of the civics textbook inappropriate? Does it provoke inappropriate or homosexual thoughts? Vimal Veerawansha and other parties have joined this campaign, and as a result, doors to a new world of learning have been closed to students.
6 ශ්‍රේණියේ දරුවන්ට විවර වෙන්නට තිබුණු ලෝකයක් අකුල් හෙළ බාධා කරා.
Now, as the education reforms were debated in Parliament, a group of parents staged a protest near the Parliament Access Road demanding the immediate implementation of the Grade 6 curriculum revision, which was postponed until next year. However, teachers' unions, highlighting errors detected in the new modular education system, suggested that a comprehensive roadmap must be drafted before implementing the education reforms.
The Grade 6 Parents Union staged a protest at the Poldua Junction near the Parliament Entry Road today. The union previously held similar demonstrations in front of the Ministry of Education and the Presidential Secretariat and submitted a memorandum to the President's office requesting the implementation of the postponed curriculum revision. Meanwhile, the Satyagraha initiated by the Teachers and Parents Collective of Gaul, demanding that the revised Grade 6 curriculum be implemented this year, continued for the third consecutive day. Meanwhile, President of the Association of Education Professionals, Venerable Ulapane Sumangalathera, arrived at the Criminal Investigation Department today to provide a statement regarding the inclusion of an inappropriate web link in the Grade 6 English language module. With the President assuring that the Grade 6 curriculum revision will be implemented next year, several stakeholders addressed the current protests and highlighted issues in the new module-based system.
We can clearly see that the protests have been carefully chosen. They are local politicians answering the call of the Palwatha headquarters. Under this system, teachers are allowed to assign grades at their discretion. As a result, talented students may not receive the grades they deserve if favoritism prevails. The final examination will only carry 30 marks, while the remaining 70 will be awarded at the teacher's discretion. There are errors in the system similar to those in the modules. We have proposed to the government that the curriculum revision for both Grade 6 and Grade 10 be implemented in 2027. This way, students who will be educated under the module system in Grade 6 will have the opportunity to face examinations under the same system in 2030. There should be a roadmap outlining what is required each year if the reforms are to be implemented successfully. However, no such roadmap has been drafted. The officials who were in charge of this process were unsuccessful, leaving Grade 6 students to bear the consequences. This process must only continue after competent teams are appointed.
Turning to post-disaster rebuilding now, President Anura Dissanayake says the lack of coordination among key state institutions is posing challenges to the efforts to restore the Central Highlands, which was severely damaged by Cyclone Ditwa. He made this comment yesterday during a meeting with Asian Development Bank and United Nations Development Programme representatives at the Presidential Secretariat. Speaking at the meeting, the President noted that institutions overseeing construction, land management, agriculture, livestock and environmental conservation have operated in isolation, posing challenges to the restoration of the Central Highlands following the devastation caused by Cyclone Ditwa. He said steps are underway to establish an integrated framework to bring all stakeholders together to swiftly safeguard and rebuild the region. The discussion, attended by representatives from the Asian Development Bank and the United Nations Development Programme, revealed that nearly 4,000 landslides were triggered by the cyclone. Officials cited years of unauthorized construction, unsustainable cultivation practices and poor maintenance as major contributing factors. The meeting stressed the urgent need for a national policy to protect the Central Highlands and preserve them for future generations. President Derana instructed officials to expedite the establishment of a legally empowered authority to oversee conservation and restoration activities. ADB and UNDP representatives reaffirmed full support, highlighting the importance of a dedicated financial fund for long-term recovery. Meanwhile, an IMF staff team is scheduled to visit Sri Lanka today to assess the full scope of Cyclone Ditwa's damage. The findings of the 6-day tour will inform discussions on the IMF-supported program. The team will engage with government officials and stakeholders to explore avenues to assist Sri Lanka's recovery, including resuming the extended fund facility-supported program and offering policy advice and technical assistance for sustainable growth. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya says the increase in women's representation in Parliament under the current government represents a key foundation for empowering women's leadership. She made this remark while addressing a conference on women's leadership in Switzerland.
On the sidelines of the 56th World Economic Forum yesterday, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya participated in the World Women Davos Agenda 2026.
Across the globe, societies are being reshaped by climate change, technological disruption, economic transformation, political instability, militarization, and social movements demanding justice, equality, and inclusion. It is in this shifting landscape that it is increasingly evident that feminist leadership, and I want to make this distinction between women's leadership in general and feminist leadership, that feminist leadership is central to shaping the direction, values, and outcomes of the emerging global order. Leadership must be conceptualized beyond individual authority or hierarchical command and instead understood as a relational, structural, and transformative process. Sri Lanka, as you know, produced the first female prime minister in the world as far back as in 1960. I'm the third female prime minister in Sri Lanka. Yet, despite women being elected to those top positions, our parliament was never able to exceed over 5% of female representation. The first female prime minister and the first female president came from very powerful political families. In 2024, when my government was elected to power, that we managed to change this and double the number of women in parliament. So we went from 5% to a measly 10%. And of the 22 women in parliament currently, including myself, come from non-political families. Many of us are newbies to politics, but with that change, there is also a disruption and an anxiety at all levels about how to handle these unusual women.
The Prime Minister also met the European Commissioner for Preparedness and Crisis Management, Hadja Labib. During the meeting, the Prime Minister expressed appreciation for the support extended by the European Union and its member states following Cyclone Ditwa and requested continued EU assistance for Sri Lanka's disaster preparedness and recovery efforts. The Premier also met United Nations Development Programme representative Alexander De Croo. During a meeting with the chairman of AP Moeller Holding, Robert M. Ogla, discussions focused on engagement with the private sector and exploring areas of collaboration to support Sri Lanka's economic development. The Prime Minister also held bilateral discussions with Lutfi Siddiqui, Special Envoy for International Affairs to the Chief Advisor of the Government of Bangladesh.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa claims that a proper consultative process has not been followed in the formulation of amendments to the Universities Act. He made this observation during a meeting of the Sectoral Oversight Committee on Education.
If he set aside political allegiances, a serious concern has been raised that a comprehensive dialogue and consultative process was not conducted during the drafting of amendments to the Universities Act. We have observed that the consultative process was not implemented systematically. Moreover, existing legislation must be enforced until it is formally amended. If anyone claims that the current law need to be followed because specific law legislation may be drafted, that constitutes a violation of the law. An order has reportedly been issued to suspend the election of deans of faculties and heads of departments until the new legislation is enacted. That is a clear violation of the rule of law. How can these elections be halted based on legislation that is yet to be enacted?
එතෙක් මේ ක්‍රියාවලිය නතර කරන්නයි කියලා කොහොමද එහෙම උපදෙස් දෙන්නේ?
Welcome back to First at 9. Now, Minister of Justice and National Integration Harshana Nanayakara says the Cabinet of Ministers has not decided to submit a motion of impeachment against the Attorney General. However, former Justice Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa alleges that the government's actions indicate an attempt to pressure the Attorney General to either comply with its demands or step down.
දැන් නීතිපති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව මුළුමනින්ම අකර්මණ්‍ය කරන්න රජය සැලසුම් සහගතව
The government is deploying its own supporters to stage protests calling for the removal of the Attorney General with the intention of disrupting the functions of the Attorney General's department. CID officers were sent to London to investigate matters related to former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's visit. However, does the Inspector General of Police have the authority to issue such instructions? When investigations are conducted overseas, the correct procedure requires the Attorney General to first make a request through the Secretary to the Ministry of Justice, who then informs the relevant foreign government via Sri Lanka's High Commission to seek law enforcement assistance. In this instance, the CID has acted independently, disregarding established legal procedures. This matter remains an internal issue of the Attorney General's department, where differing legal opinions can exist. However, the government does not have the authority to override decisions made by the Attorney General. His determination is final. Even during our tenure, there were instances where the Attorney General did not agree with decisions taken by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Yet we never attempted to interfere with or alter the Attorney General's directives.
හැබැයි කවදාවත් අපි නීතිපතිගේ මතය වෙනස් කරේ නැහැ.
ඒකට පුළුවන් නීතිපති කෙනෙක් තමන්ට අවශ්‍ය නොවුනයි කියලා ඉවත් කරන්න හෝ නව නීතිපතිලා පත් කරන්න.
එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. නීතිපතිවරයා ආස් කරනවා නම් දෝෂ.
That is not possible. An impeachment motion must be submitted followed by a formal investigation. Any wrongdoing must be proven and tabled in Parliament. The government is attempting to remove the Attorney General by alleging political bias without following due process. To my knowledge, the Attorney General has not engaged in politics and continues to act independently. During our tenure, former Minister Kelly Ramukalla was arrested while serving in the cabinet. Had we interfered with the Attorney General's department at the time, that arrest would not have taken place. The current pressure being exerted appears aimed at forcing the Attorney General to either comply with the government's demands or step down voluntarily.
එහෙම නැත්නම් නීතිපතිවරයා ගෞරවනීය ලෙස ඉල්ලා අසලා යන්න ඕනේ.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Justice and National Integration rejected these allegations.
Questions have raised regarding whether the government intends to bring an impeachment motion against the Attorney General. I wish to clarify that no such decision has been taken by the Cabinet of Ministers. Various opinions are circulating on social media, some calling for the Attorney General's protection, others demanding his removal, and some even urging the removal of the Justice Minister for allegedly protecting him. If there are any allegations of corruption against the Justice Minister, complaints can be filed with the relevant authorities. To be clear, no discussion has taken place at Cabinet level regarding the impeachment or removal of the Attorney General.
Leader of the National Freedom Front, Vimal Veeravansa, asserts that recent remarks made by Minister K.D. Lalkantha depicts the government's intention of setting up an authoritarian regime. Meanwhile, in a separate development, former parliamentarian Dr. Ramesh Patirana rejoined the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna today and assumed office as the SLPP's organiser for the Benthara Alpiti electorate.
Recent remarks made by Minister Lalkantha at the Mahaveli Centre yesterday stroked political controversy. The minister made these remarks speaking at a commemorative event titled Read Lenin.
We could throw a punch like Bruce Lee every now and then to destroy what we intend to attack. When we attack them, they ask us not to do so, hiding behind their titles and officers as lawyers, ministers or monks. Notwithstanding the status of their office, we will attack. We have secured the power of the government at the moment. We must toil hard to secure state power in the near future.
Several stakeholders commented on the minister's remarks.
Minister Lalkantha made two critical points. He first said that they would counterattack anyone notwithstanding who they are. Therefore, he openly states he is also willing to attack the Buddhist clergy. Lalkantha made these statements while government's whitewashers attack the Buddhist clergy on social media with insults and disparaging remarks. If we don't stop this now, we will not be able to stop the impending destruction. Secondly, the minister claims they hold government power now, but not state power. He calls for a struggle to secure state power. What is state power? What he intends to say is that the military, the police, the courts must comprise supporters of his party. He alludes to setting up a tyrannical dictatorship often seen in single-party political systems. This is the next most disturbing claim made by the minister. They are trying to achieve goals of their JVP after assuming the government. Do not underestimate these remarks. Malicious mind of the government was exposed on this occasion.
එතකොට දැන් ලාල්කාන්තර ඕනේ මොකද්ද?
What does Lanka want? He wants to manipulate the Attorney General for their own benefit, similar to what they have done with the IGP. Lanka requires an Attorney General who would function just like the IGP. This is why they stage protest and other media stunts through their representatives. They are trying to make sure everyone bends to their whims and fancies. If they were unable to acquire legal power to govern the state, they should just go home.
In a separate development, former parliamentarian Dr. Ramesh Patirana, who supported former President Ranil Wickremesinghe during the last presidential election, rejoined the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna today. Dr. Patirana was re-awarded his membership at the SLPP headquarters by national organiser MP Namal Rajapaksa. Subsequently, Dr. Patirana was appointed the SLPP's organiser for the Benthara Alpitiya electorate and the national convener of the party's Health Professionals Association.
No, we do not go anywhere. This is our home. I was taking a break from politics in the previous year. We must take a moment to observe the latest and chart a political course when a new government comes into power. The current situation depicts uncertainty. Therefore, we are recommencing our political endeavours. They themselves and the people of this country are well aware of the government situation. The expectations of the people abandoned gradually. Therefore, we must come together and organize ourselves as a strong opposition. No, it is different. We have a set of policies guiding our decisions. We recently took some political decisions. We maintain distance due to those political decisions. Feelings might have been hurt along the way, but it is crucial to unite and move forward.
And with that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
The Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption has filed indictments against former Minister Arjuna Ranatunga and his brother Dhammika Ranatunga before the Colombo High Court. The indictments relate to an alleged loss of 800 million rupees caused to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation through artificially inflated call spot tenders. This was communicated to the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court today when the relevant legal matter was taken for consideration. In the meantime, the Sri Lanka Navy welcomed Royal Navy of Oman ship Al-Sib and Indonesian Navy ship Kri Sultan Iskandar Muda 367 today at the port of Colombo. The Sri Lanka Navy says the visits by the Omani and Indonesian vessels provide opportunities to strengthen professional interaction, courtesy engagements and the cooperation among the navies. Meanwhile, the Court of Appeal today scheduled for the 30th of January its ruling on the petitions seeking to invalidate the remand orders against Venerable Balangura Kassapathera and Venerable Trikunamale Kalyana Vansatissathera. The two monks were arrested and subsequently remanded in connection with the alleged unlawful enshrinement of a Buddha statue in Trincomalee. The announcement came after the petitions were considered by a two-member bench of the Court of Appeal today. In another development, the sister of late former parliamentarian Nandana Gunathilaka lodged a complaint with the Criminal Investigation Department today, requesting an investigation into the former MP's death. The complainant alleges that Gunathilaka's death may have been a murder. In other local news, the Department of Meteorology reports that the temperature in Nuwara Eliya fell to 3.5 degrees Celsius today. Previously, a record low temperature of 2.1 degrees Celsius was recorded in Nuwara Eliya on January 3, 2009, and this is the lowest temperature recorded since that year.
Welcome back to First at 9 in your business news. The Colombo Bourse closed in positive territory today as a result of price gains in counters such as H&B, DFCC and United Motors. The benchmark ASPI gained 0.03% to close at 23,813.77. However, the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 saw a marginal decline of 0.02% to end the day at 6,617.85. Market turnover was 8.325 billion rupees. The capital goods sector was the highest contributor to market turnover, followed by the food, beverage and tobacco sector. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.